Hey everyone, I am waiting to be joined by my friend and colleague Mavis from Functional Flow Wellness. Let me see if I can find her. Give me 1 second. So, welcome. I'm Melanie, as many of you may know, from Root to Rise Wellness, and we are doing different talks on Mondays at 12 o'clock related to the gut, related to heart health, and related to inflammation. Today we're going to go over some hacks and truths about this topic and really want to empower you with knowledge as it is National Cancer Prevention Month. And I think Mavis is here.
Hello.
Hey, can't see your head. Oh, there we go. Okay, welcome Mavis from
Hi.
Flow Wellness.
How are you doing? I hope you had a good weekend.
Yeah, thanks. I'm so happy to be joined by you and being, talking about this really important topic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. That's better. So yeah, I was just letting people know that we're going to be talking about the heart this month as National Prevention and Heart Health Awareness Month,
Yeah.
and kind of related to digestive health and cover lots of different topics.
Yes, it's going to be lots of, and we could probably talk about these topics for hours. So it's exciting to just kind of dive in and see what we see what we can talk about because they're interesting topics for sure.
Yeah, so I thought it'd be good for us to introduce each other. So
Yeah.
I am Melanie of Root to Rise Wellness. I am a integrative nutrition health coach, a community herbalist, and I have a background in speech and language pathology, specifically focusing on the oral musculature. We call it orofacial myology. And I'm really excited to dive into this topic.
Yeah.
And I'm joined by Mavis from Flow Functional Wellness, who is a physician associate, and we're both based out of North Carolina, and see clients virtually. I see clients in person, you see clients virtually, and in the Triangle area is where we're both located. Is that right? Got it all, maybe?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I see virtual patients in North Carolina and Virginia. I work with women and I specialize in hormone therapy, gut health, and detox. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for the introduction. That was beautiful.
Yeah, thanks for that addition. And so we're going to dive into sort of relating the gut health to inflammation today, right?
Yeah.
And how balanced gut contributes to systemic inflammation and heart disease. And isn't that a fun topic?
Yes, I really think for people to really grasp and understand how heart health is connected, you really have to understand what inflammation is. So that's why I really think we're driving that in today is what is inflammation and how does that matter? Because if you don't understand that, you really can't get the connection between the gut and the heart.
Yeah, good point. So I guess I will explain what it is. So inflammation is our natural body's response to attack. So if you fall, you get a scab, you get a bruise, that's all normal. That is fine. That is your body's way of reacting to a threat, right? But what happens nowadays is we're faced with a lot of chronic inflammation, like the silent killer, which is that we're not facing an overt threat, but yet our body is overreacting, hyperreacting, and you may not even be aware of the ways in which it can be reactive, and if left untreated can lead to things like obesity, heart disease, everything from diabetes to cancer, and beyond. So does that explain it?
Yeah.
Anything
Yeah,
you
I
want?
think that's beautiful. I mean, yeah, and I think it's important to know that, kind of like you said, this is our body's innate response, but when it goes on for a long period of time, then it can be damaging and start to harm us, which is not what we want. But yeah, that was beautiful. I think it's also important to know what are we reacting to? Our modern times has a lot more things that we can react to than 100 years ago or 50 years ago, even. So we are reacting to toxins and infections and food allergies, and all of these things. Are so many things that we're reacting to that I think is definitely different than 50 or even 100 years ago. So
Yes, so much more. And I'm excited to dive into like the ways in which we may be causing inflammation in our bodies and
yeah,
not even be aware of it because it's so commonplace these days.
right.
So let's dive into how inflammation contributes to heart disease and go over some like inflammatory markers.
Yeah,
I know looking at blood work, I like to look at HSCRP, homocysteine. There's lots of
yeah.
blood markers. I'd love for you to like dive deeper into what can be found looking at somebody's blood work, especially since we don't always understand the symptoms.
Yeah, yeah, perfect. And those are actually two of my favorite ones I like to check as well. Um, but yeah, so when it comes to inflammation and it comes to heart disease, there is a huge connection. So you may have heard of the term atherosclerosis, which is basically hardening of our arteries, our blood vessel walls, and that when that happens, it's kind of like it's plaque buildup. It's kind of like getting rust in old pipes, over time. Like the rust is building up, and when they become hardened, they become narrower, right? So when our blood vessels become narrower, we're not able to get as much blood flow through the arteries. We can then, it's going to increase pressure in the system, which is high blood pressure, right? And then these plaques and this hardening over time can then contribute to heart attacks or strokes or dementia or whatever the case may be. But that process is driven by inflammation. That's what's driving this process. There's all kinds of things, oxidative stress is a big fancy word that we use, which basically just means like there's fire going on in the lining of our artery, and then like your immune system would be kind of like the firefighters, like the inflammation, trying to put out the fire, right?
Mhm.
And so yeah, over time, that inflammation is then causing these arterial changes, which is then leading to these other effects. Believe it or not, so you were mentioning CRP, homocysteine. Those are two of my favorite ones that I check on all my ladies. I don't know if you've ever heard this stat, but believe it or not, almost half of all heart attacks happen in people with normal cholesterol levels but high inflammatory markers, and CRP is one of those.
Mhm.
So oh, that
Yeah, I
is just so
did
good.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, CRP, that's a big one. So C-reactive protein, again, that kind of just measures how much inflammation you have in your blood vessels. And homocysteine, that is an amino acid that our body recycles, and it's part of a really big process called methylation. And I can get really nerdy on you, but those also, if you have elevated homocysteine, can also increase your risk of cardiovascular disease. So those are two of my favorite ones as well that I like to check as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually just had a client recently who had high levels of both of those, and she thinks that she feels like she digests food fine, and she doesn't. She feels fine, but I'm like, okay, you feel fine, but this is showing up in your blood, so something is going on here, and people just may not be aware. So I feel like having the blood work is often helpful.
Oh yes.
Um,
Oh yes. And that's
and
the
not
beauty of
always
functional.
tested, right?
Yeah, that's what I say. The beauty of functional integrative medicine is that we're checking these markers that are not necessarily always covered by insurance,
Right.
right? Because our system is the conventional system is very reactive in that they're waiting until you get a diagnosis, right? Whereas what we're doing is we're trying to be more preventative and check these markers that are out of control well before the disease even develops, right? Yeah. So, yeah.
So I wanted to just talk a little bit about what happens energetically with inflammation, because I look at it as stuck energy, trapped energy in the body. And what I like to teach clients to do is I use a lot of practices that are rooted in Asian TCM, they call it perspective, a lot of Qigong,
Mhm.
which is really about moving stuck energy and creating balance in the body by doing that. Um, and so I really think Qigong is so valuable. And there's even certain Qigong practices that are rooted in certain energetic systems. So if you have stagnation in the lungs, you know what to do. If you have, because inflammation can show up in so many different areas of the body, right? It can show up in your lungs, show up in your bones, lots of ways. So that is really important to do. And then the other thing I think about is energetically, are you sending messages of danger or safety to your body? And when I bring that up to
That's
clients,
good.
isn't that good? Clients are, they think about that, right? Because
Yeah.
Um, we inadvertently, if you are rushing out the door because you're running late somewhere, by the way, I want to just say I'm one of you too. I go through some of these myself. But
Yeah.
then you're sending messages of danger to your body. If you are texting while driving, guess what? You're sending messages of danger to your body because you're having to multitask and hyper focus. Um, if you are just eating while standing up, not sitting down for your meal, you are sending messages of danger to your body. So we do this all the time as a society, more and more. And it's really nice to question, like, am I sending messages of danger or safety to my body? And the first step really is awareness. So that's something that do you resonate with that, Mavis?
Oh yeah. No, that was beautiful what you just said. I don't always use the word energy, I don't think, with patients, but I'll use like thoughts or beliefs which carry energy, right?
Nice.
So yeah, that was beautiful. That was just perfect what you just said. Yeah, I love that.
Things. So, all right. So let's segue into the microbiome and
Yeah.
immunity and the role of gut bacteria in supporting immune health and
Okay.
cancer prevention. So
Yeah.
I'll let you take it away with that.
Okay. Yeah. So tying back into, okay, so got a little understanding of like inflammation, how that contributes to heart disease, but what the heck does the gut have to do with any of this? Two big parts, really. So there's gut hormones, and then there's the microbiome, right? And so, just to kind of break that down for you, the microbiome is the makeup of bacteria and fungus and everything else that lives in our gut, right? When I mean gut, I mean from like your mouth down to your colon, from head to toe. That's
Right.
the gut. So all of that means the gut, and everything that lives in that makes up the microbiome. So the microbiome, you may have heard of prebiotics or probiotics or postbiotics. The postbiotics are what the microbiome is creating, okay? And they're called short chain fatty acids. But long story short, these short chain fatty acids are super important for regulating inflammation, regulating our metabolism, protecting our gut, preventing cancer, even like colon cancer. I mean, these things that the bacteria in our body make for us help us or hurt us. And that's why the microbiome is so important. There's a few strains that are really important. And these are ones that I usually see low on. If I do a GI stool map on someone, I might see these low in someone. Akkermansia, that's a big one that I see this low. Yeah, you said, yeah. So that's super important. That's going to help regulate inflammation, and it's also going to help with insulin and glucose metabolism and help to just strengthen the gut overall. Another big one that I see low a lot and I'm probably going to butcher this name, Faecalibacterium prosnitzi. I know I completely probably butchered that, but that is one of the okay, that is one of the major butyrate producers. Butyrate meaning a short chain fatty acid that's super important. And so again, that's going to help to regulate the inflammation in our gut and just help the overall, health of our gut. And so those are two that I see low on people that I try to work with patients and get those back up because that's going to help to regulate everything. And so that's just, a little bit about that. The other piece to that I was talking about was the gut hormones. So the gut makes actual hormones, right? Which then tell the organs in the brain and everybody else kind of like how to do their job. And there's several of them. They're like all really important. But insulin's a big one, right? So insulin is how we get glucose or energy into our cell. If that's dysregulated or not working well, that can promote inflammation in the body or insulin resistance, as you may have heard it. Um, there's a lot, but that's probably a big one. Leptin, I'm gonna just talk about leptin really quick too, because leptin's a big one. It regulates our fullness, it helps regulate our metabolism, and high levels of that can lead to obesity, which can lead to inflammation, increased risk of cancer, increased risk of cardiovascular disease, things like that. So that's just a couple examples of how important our gut is in regulating our inflammation. And it's just, I mean, it's all
Oh,
connected. You can't separate these
yeah.
things. It's all connected.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really insightful in terms of bacteria. And now I wanted to like give people a solution in herbs since I am an herbalist. I wanted to talk about an herb that people may not have heard of that's hugely helpful in the gut. Sometimes also, well, the gut is also related to the nervous system, so it can be helpful in both. But anyhow, the plant I wanted to mention was meadowsweet. Have you heard of meadowsweet?
I have not.
Okay, so meadowsweet is a really special plant. We use the above ground parts of the plant, and the Latin is Filipendula ulmaria,
Oh,
and it I know sounds super fancy, Filipendula. So why I love Filipendula is because well, it has salicylic acid in it, just like aspirin. And where is modern medicine derived? It's derived in plants. So why not go to the natural source? So I love it because it doesn't have all the side effects that, let's say, taking an aspirin would have, and said, you know, aspirin has negative side effects on the gut when, especially when taking it often. So I love it because it's like a natural antacid. So if you're dealing with reflux, if you're dealing with dysbiosis, I really like it for that. If you're just feeling queasy in your gut, it's really nice, and it also contains silica. So silica is really important for building calcium, and we both work with women, and that's hugely important. Um, so it's an anti-inflammatory herb that specializes in inflammation that is rooted in the gut. And being that that's our topic, I thought I could mention it. The way I like to consume it is in a tea. I buy the loose herb, and just steep it for 15 minutes covered, maybe a tablespoon for 15 minutes covered, strain it and drink it. And I enjoy a cup of that when I need it. It's also a bit uplifting. As I mentioned, gut, nervous system, spirit connection there. So
yeah.
I love that. So hope that's helpful.
Wait, meadow. What was it again? Meadow what?
Meadow sweet.
Sweet, sweet.
But it's always good to know the Latin. Filipendula almaria is the Latin because there's so many common names for plants.
Yeah.
So when I go out into the wild, I always try to, you know, let them know what that is. So now
Oh
you
my
guys,
God, that's so exciting. I'm gonna try this. This is
yeah,
awesome. I
it's
love
awesome.
that.
I can get you some, no problem.
Yes.
Um, we're going to switch over to some more practical tips and talk
Yeah.
about to nurture the gut and reduce inflammation. Um, So why don't you talk a little bit about pre and probiotics? We're kind of getting to time, so we'll kind of keep this a little shorter, and I'll mention some fiber and some other foods that would be helpful. So go ahead,
Yeah,
Mavis.
yeah, sure. So like I was saying earlier, there's prebiotics, probiotics, postbiotics. Prebiotics are what we eat on a daily basis or supplement with that feed the probiotics or the bacteria and fungus and all the things that are helping us, right? So that they can do their job and make those postbiotics to help us, right? It's like a symbiotic relationship, hopefully most of the time, right? That's the idea. So yeah, what we're eating are prebiotics. I mean, garlic, onions, leeks, asparagus. Those are the ones coming right off the top of my head. There's a whole list you can Google them, prebiotics. We can eat them. You don't have to supplement with them, although you can, but we can eat them in everyday real food. That's the beauty of it. And then probiotics, think about a lot of your fermented stuff, kefir, yogurt, uh, kimchi, sauerkraut. I'm probably missing some, but think a lot about the fermented foods. Those would be your probiotics, and then a lot of your fiber-based foods would be your prebiotics.
And it's important to mention that if you don't feel good on these foods, that just means that you have some dysbiosis that needs to be met with. Because some people can't have those natural forms. So I think that's important to mention. Thanks for that. And I also like fiber is a much bigger conversation that we need to take down in a different live because it's so huge. I'm going to pause on that fiber, but I am going to just mention something really important, which is eating whole
Oh,
foods, people.
yeah.
We sacrifice a lot for convenience. And I just wanted to mention some healthier options for things that you may be having. So, for example, instead of flavored yogurt, go for a full fat organic Greek yogurt.
Yes.
Okay. Go for, instead of a granola bar, go for homemade granola.
Mm,
Instead of whole wheat bread, go for whole grains. This
mhm.
would be, I need to give examples because I feel like this is something in our society that is so undervalued and unconsumed.
Yeah.
So let's say brown rice, wild rice, red rice, seed-like grains, quinoa, buckwheat, millet. People haven't even heard of some of these. Sorghum, guys. But there we go. There's the fiber in there, but we'll dive deeper into fiber in another, yeah, in other topics.
Yeah.
Anyway, plant-based alternatives. Beyond Meat is like beyond me. I don't understand it.
Yeah,
Please don't eat it.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so healthier alternatives would be lentils, tempeh, which
Mm,
is a less processed
right,
form of soy,
right.
homemade veggie patties, instant oatmeal. Try plain rolled oats.
Mhm.
It's not going to have all those added sugars and things that come in instant oatmeal. How about a nut butter that just has nuts?
Yeah,
Some of them have additional things in them that we don't want. How about instead of a store-bought salad dressing, you make your own? Why? Because
yeah.
store-bought often has vegetable oil, oils that are inflammatory, and just other processed preservatives to keep the shelf life. So those are just
Oh,
some examples. I can go on, but
those were amazing. Like most bang for your buck tips. I love that. And when you're talking about bread, so we started making our own sourdough bread last year.
mhm.
Once you make your own, there's no going back. There's
Yeah,
no going back.
for sure, for sure. And it's not to say to like never eat bread, but it is to
Right.
say add some of those whole grains in because, okay, I am going to mention, I just can't not mention it. Fiber. Okay, we're talking about the heart. We're going to dive deeper into cholesterol in a future
Yes.
live. But what's the problem with it's like an epidemic of people who have too much bad cholesterol and levels that are too high. We'll go deeper into this. And one of the things that makes you have better cholesterol is fiber. Why is that? Look at all these diets: paleo diet, keto diet, come on, carnivore diet. What do they all have in common? What do they all take out? They take out fiber. Why is that? Fiber is hard to digest. So people think because they eat carnivore, for example, oh, I feel better, it must be good for me. You're actually causing inflammation in your body in the long term. Why? Because you need fiber. You need
Yes, it is. Yep. It is
fiber.
the fuel for the microbiome. So important.
Okay, exactly. So we're going to dive deeper into that in
Yeah.
another live. But so I think it's important for us to say how people can connect with us.
Yeah.
Um, so Mavis, tell us how you stand out, what people can go to you for.
Yes. So I do a lot of hormone balancing. I use bioidentical hormones. I do a lot of gut health protocols, do a lot of detox protocols. That's kind of really my bread and butter. I do a lot with insulin resistance, metabolic health. I mean, you really can't do in functional medicine, you can't do one part without doing the whole body because it doesn't work that way. So I treat the whole lady, all parts. But
I like
those are kind of that's kind of my bread and butter. To work one-on-one with me, you can book a free phone call through the website. That's easy to do. I also do some group-based things here and there. If you're looking to just kind of test some of these markers that we talked about today, you can definitely do that without being a patient. You can go to my lab shop, which you can find in the link in bio, as well, excuse me, as well as on my website. And there's a few different panels that are probably relevant to what we're talking about today. The cardiometabolic profile. It looks at, it's close to like 30 different biomarkers that look at inflammation, blood sugar, metabolic function. It really looks at your risk for cardiovascular disease. That's a really important one. So if you're really looking to take a deep dive, it's not like your standard cholesterol panel, y'all. I mean, this is expanded. So if you're looking to take a deep dive and understand your risk more about that, you can check out that in the lab shop. I also have some gut health testing in there as well. You can check out in the gut health section if you're looking to dive deep into your gut. With that, if you do order that, I will send you a password protected video going through your results with you. I can't give you a personalized treatment plan because you're not my patient, but if you wanted to then further work one-on-one, we could together for sure. Or you could work with the lovely Melanie.
it. Or you can work with us both
Yeah.
because what I love about Mavis is that she does do these blood work interpretations. So although I do look at blood work, Mavis has more experience in that area. And so that allows me to focus more on what I excel in, which is helping people to move stuck energy, dealing with the emotions behind chronic disease, dealing with moving that stuck energy, rewiring the nervous system, because that's all foundational for healing and you need that.
Yes.
Um, you really need that and you have to deal with that part of it. I know firsthand because I started out not doing that
Yes.
and I wasn't getting better. So
Yes.
I've
Mhm.
that realization. So I have 3 coaching spots available, and I work virtually and in person here in Hillsborough, North Carolina. You can book a free initial consult with in my link tree on my in my bio. You'll see that. You could also just join my newsletter and receive some free information if you're not ready for that. I am doing an herbalism medicine making series in Mavis, North Carolina. And so we're going to
So
go out
excited.
in the woods and we're going to make some medicine. Mavis, you got to come.
I love
Okay.
it. Yes. Yes. No, me and my husband are like 100% like ready to roll because it sounds so
Yeah,
amazing. I
I love that. Be your own
yeah.
healer. And I do have some free classes coming up in Hillsborough and Durham regarding inflammation and cortisol. So we will be back here on Mondays at 12 o'clock and continue to dive into these topics of gut, heart, inflammation, and healing. And so we look forward to seeing you next Monday. Tune in at 12 o'clock Eastern Time. And this is Mavis from Functional Wellness and
Yeah,
Melly.
yeah.
Routerized Wellness signing off. Thank you,
Take
Mavis.
care, everyone.
Bye.